Welcome to the Clearsound podcast. My name is Derek Kelly. I am joined once again by Benjamin Chua. Benjamin, you have done a lot of writing, search engine optimization, those pieces for quite a few of our clients. And on a previous episode, we spent some time really digging into, guys, if you haven't seen it or listened to it, go ahead back and play that back. We really spent a lot of time talking about how having a compelling brand story really connects with your messaging and ultimately leads you to finding the right type of leads. But we didn't dive into, Benjamin, was what is a good message? What I've seen, for example, since we love to tell stories of clients that we've served, is we have a chiropractor and their slogan is moving forward to a better you, but their brand is momentum. So momentum, if you have momentum, you move forward, right? And so that message of moving forward to a better you ties back to Momentum Chiropractic. Their brand narrative is they want to help you move forward to a better you, not just from a chiropractic adjustment point of view, but in all areas of your life, from your spiritual walk to your physical health to your emotional health. So you start to see this brand narrative through everything that they put out. They have supplements you can take. They have a dry float table you can go to. They have a halo therapy, all these different pieces that really tell that they're not just telling a good story, but they're living that story. So they have an entire ebook they put out that really goes through these different areas of health and all these different perspectives and says, we want to help you move forward to a better you. So Benjamin, break down, what does a good message look like and how do we think about that? And then I'll add some pieces of just how do we connect that messaging to our audience?
I think there are different ways that you can approach that question. When people show up, how are they able to hear your message or see your message and receive your message? What's the form that it takes?
Yeah, like the packaging.
And then on the other side, there's the substance. What's not just on the outside, but what the package contains. With momentum, the package contains all sorts of things which are authentically lived out through their own practice and then through those that they serve. Now, the way that you might see the packaging, the appearance, is their website. It could be any of a number of things which are like a gateway to the substance.
Yes.
And which will help you to connect with that. I think that the thing that connects those two things, the external packaging and the internal substance, is the story that holds them together. The story of their brand, the story of the individual behind it. I went from A to B. These are the people that I met. This is what I learned to value and cherish. And I now want to share that with you. Sometimes the story can be slightly different from that. That kind of story, I would say, is like a true story. It's in the past and I'm living it now. Some stories are aspirational. Everybody in America and actually the whole world knows the story that Martin Luther King Jr. painted when he gave that famous speech, I Have a Dream. And he paints this picture. That's another form of storytelling. It hasn't happened, but you're inviting someone to partner with you so that it can become real. Having said that, he probably also had to live out what he preached to the extent that he was martyred. He was killed. He died for the message. So it wasn't insubstantial, but he held a substance. The marketing, branding, all that stuff it's not a means to an end. The means are the ends. The input and the outcome are connected. So when we talk about connecting with people through your marketing, you've got to make sure, what is my intent here? Is my intent to use this tool so I can make money only? Or is my intent to connect with people? If my intent is to connect with people, then that tool will serve that purpose. But what we're talking about here is the long-term relationship. I want this tool to add value for the long term. A specific example of Iron Point Financial, which is where my experience for writing SEO content comes from, that has to do with what are the keywords that are connected both to their business within the financial industry, actual services they offer, meaningful things that they could offer people if they wanted it and it were helpful to them. Again, not as like a standardized, here's the thing, but if this would help you, then here's one of the things we could offer. Yes. And then there's also people out there on the internet who are going on Google, they're saying, this is what I'm looking for. So they're being connected in that big picture platform, web platform, Google search engine, to this individual service through that keyword. It's like the through line. says, here's your intent, and here's something that could help answer your question or answer your service query. So when you're designing content that is substantial and meaningful, you write that on the internet through a blog post or through a specific web page on your website, which is centered around that keyword. It's like the beating heart of that blog post, so that when people go looking for it, they find it. If you do what we've advised you not to do, look for short-term transactional profit based in fear, then you'll probably fail. Even then, you might succeed for a little bit, but you'll probably end up failing. The way that Google works is if you have a keyword on your site that you're trying to rank for, and the article that you've written doesn't really add value in relation to that keyword, they will punish you.
Yes.
There'll be a huge bounce rate. People will come to your page, they'll be like, I don't know, I'm not really sure I'm feeling it. This isn't answering my question. This isn't the service I'm really looking for. Something about this isn't clicking with me. But equally, if you've done that piece of connecting all of those things together, they come to your page, they say, this is the thing I was looking for. I was looking for a carrot farming website, and they're going to teach me how to grow carrots in my own back garden. Here's a handy article that's breaking down all the steps. Oh, and if I need help, they can sell me a seed packet and I can buy that from them, but only if I need it. Then you've done a successful job of saying, here's my keyword, carrot seed pack. And here is an example of a website that has told me how I can do that myself. And it doesn't require me to go to them. But if I needed some of their help, here's an option that could be beneficial for both of us. You've both added value, and then you'll rank higher on Google as a result, and it will be free. You don't have to pay for the advertising. You don't have to get a sponsored result, but you've offered something meaningful to the world that you can speak authoritatively to, and everybody wins. Everyone comes away happy.
If you're listening to this and you're saying, okay, I don't know how to write blogs, I don't know all about that keyword piece, Michael Santiago and I in a previous episode broke down some good keywords research tools, some basics to start with. But even if you're saying, okay, that might not be my platform of choice, you can do the same thing with social media, an Instagram post, a Facebook post, a YouTube video, a podcast like we're doing. Those are some ways where you can get your message out there. And still, people aren't finding it through search. So they might be finding it unintentionally, right? They're scrolling and they're finding it. The benefit of what Benjamin's talking about is when they find it through search, this is what they're looking for, and you're providing them an answer to what they're looking for. So there's a benefit to that, but there's no less value to the social media piece. It's just found in a different way. And for example, we had somebody interested in creating a garlic growing company to sell garlic, heads of garlic to people. And that was a true example, right? And when I went to do the market research of what does this look like, I saw, wow, they're selling organic garlic to people interested in the USDA organic piece, but they're also selling garden seeds. That's a different consumer. That person wants to plant their own garlic. They're also selling bushels and bushels of garlic for somebody that wants to buy pounds and pounds of garlic at bulk, right? You start to recognize, okay, wow, they have some different audiences that their messaging is geared towards. And they've picked a smart brand. Garlic, something like Garlic Growers was their brand. And so you start to make this connection of, oh, they're named well. They offer this value in these articles about how to grow your own garlic or the benefit of buying our garlic. They have two streams of how you can enter and interact with them. But they had a really clear message of we're family owned. Here's the field that we grow the garlic in. You really started to see what Benjamin and I had talked about on the previous episode connect with what we're talking about now. They knew their brand, they knew who they were, they knew who their audience was, and they had clear messaging that made me go, I want to buy this garlic, or at least it provided us some good market research for the client that we want to work with that wants to grow the garlic. Here's a good starting place. Here's someone doing it. How do we make sure that we maintain our values as we learn from what they've done? And I think what Benjamin alluded to is you start to see, okay, somebody's looking for a pack of carrots. This is the route they've gone down. You can start to emulate good messaging from what you've seen, right? Benjamin, we talked about on the previous episode, we've seen bad marketing messages, but we've also seen some really good ones, right? And we start to see, what do I like? Often when people are coming to us for a website or social media, do you have any brands that you're encouraged by? We'll often ask them and they'll say, oh, I really love the messaging of Apple, or I love how well this locally owned business did this. And they'll start to give us examples, big and small, of companies they've really enjoyed. And what often I see is sometimes it's the design, but often it's the way that company communicates that they really enjoy. And I think that gives you some ammo as a listener to let me take an introspective look at my messaging. And does it match the voice of my company? And so, two resources that can be helpful. We always like to give resources down below. One on the 5 ways to generate the right type of leads. If you have a clear message, you know who you are, your communication, and your brand, you need to learn how to generate the right type of leads, the qualified leads for your business. That's a resource below. We also, as of the time of this recording, I will put a link to our $17, it will go up, messaging course that teaches you a lot of what Benjamin and I are talking about in terms of knowing your voice, narrowcasting, which means speaking to the right audience, and naming your audience. So let me break down what I've seen over the past 10 years of helping businesses clear messages. First, number one, it's got to stay true to who you are. Number two, it's got to narrowcast to your audience. And number three, it's got to have a clear call to action, right? And that call to action isn't always purchase. Sometimes it's, hey, Benjamin and I back in the day, I don't even remember this. We used to do a game plan messaging huddle. He came on and a few friends of his, and we did a game plan messaging huddle. We got deep into messaging, and it was, hey, we're offering this $47 training. And we started a roundtable circular discussion of what does a clear message look like. And we really narrowed it down to those pieces of knowing who you are, knowing your voice, naming that audience, right? And then really clearly having something that resonates with them through a clear call to action and a clear invitation. And so we have a clear invitation right now. Hey, check out those resources. But that's not saying, hey, you have to buy this thing. It's saying, wow, we spent time and we really think these resources would be valuable to you.
And if I could just comment briefly as an encouragement
Yes.
to people who are listening, trust the process. If you do know who you are and you are able to communicate that through your brand in a clear way, it may not happen straight away. You may not get a bajillion of the right leads immediately, but over time, trust the process. And we really believe that it will come through, that those right people will show up, the right relationships to work with, because what you're offering is not just a product, but you're offering something true about who you are. You are sharing that with the world. And when the right people see that, they can connect with you through that platform. I was very encouraged recently. Sometimes when you're just writing things, you don't always see the impact straight away. But I was very encouraged meeting one of Iron Point Financial's partners in Singapore. And he was saying, oh, yeah, I love Clearsound. I just heard from my partner that a few people have actually converted and they've become clients as a result of reading through these blogs. Now, I don't know if I wrote that or who else wrote that, but he was like, yeah, it's been super recent. Within the last few weeks, these people have done that. And I think that's a testament to saying, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. Here's how I'd love to partner with you. Then over time, people will respond to that. It's magnetic. It's meaningful. It's a stable thing. It's also not grabby or showy or pushy. It's invitational, but it does bear fruit in the long term. And you can trust that process.
We've seen it work as you go through that 5 ways to attract the right kind of leads. You're going to see a video at the end. And what that video really talks through is how to generate referrals, right? Because once you generate leads, after you get some leads in your hands, you're going to recognize, oh man, I need to generate referrals off of these leads. So how do you do that in a way that people feel valued, not violated? And there's a whole 10-minute video where Brad from our team goes through how to do that. And then we have a gentleman, Tom, who's actually Brad's dad, who we're going to have on the podcast here soon, where he actually wants to sit down with you and spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes just helping you get referrals. And Benjamin, he's like a sage in the sense of he was in sales for 40, 50 years. He built his business off of real relationships and building real referrals. And everything he's talked about, nothing ever feels sleazy and never feels like a punchline. It feels like he's just trying to serve people. And I know you're like, prove to me that this works. Well, I've seen just through his results, growing with one of the fastest insurance companies in the nation as #1 sales coordinator for him, just how impactful it was to focus on building those real relationships. So we've seen the fruit of that. So Benjamin, what Benjamin's talking about isn't just like a lofty ideal. It's actually true. It takes time, but as with search engine optimization, as we know that creating this content for you and to build a community of people that we want to build to help them stand out from the noise and create a clear sound, to build this community of people that are committed to do that is going to take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But we recognize we've helped so many people that it would be selfish of us not to take the same process and get it in the hands of people we really believe could benefit from knowing this process.
Well, hopefully we can live the message as well. And YouTube is a great platform for being able to comment and share it with others, but also reach out and connect, not just as a potential client or someone that we would quote unquote transact with, but to say, hey, do you have any more questions? Do you have any more things that you would like to see answered? Are there ways that you think people could add value to your business, to your life? You want to grab a coffee if you're nearby and chat through some of those things, if that's appropriate. Another example that has sprung to mind, you mentioned the books that I've worked on. You'd be surprised how many times one relationship leads to another. Taking the time to get to know someone, to work with someone, opens up new doors of opportunity. The first book I helped someone to write was my grandfather. His book, his autobiography. He's written 4 other books. They've been published by publishing houses. This was his last one. It was a big thing. I thought, I've got to help my grandfather write his book and edit it and all that kind of stuff. And when it was eventually released, it was a great feeling because I'd helped him to tell his story. The wonderful thing that came out of that was that one of his friends, the persons that he mentors, about a year later, maybe 2 years, they reached out to me and they said, hey, I have a book idea. I need some help to bring this book idea to life. I read your grandfather's book and I thought of you. She reached out to me and we got that published recently. It took time to walk with her and walk through her with that process with her of helping her book come to life. But it came from that initial relationship, that initial book project. And I think one of the things that Brad touches on in that video that you've linked to with the resource is maybe you won't end up doing a new business with someone that you have a relationship with. And that's okay. And if your value is to spend time with people, to add value, then they may not directly impact your business. But that doesn't mean that they might not be able to refer other people because they trust you and they know that you are someone who respects them and cares about them. So they say, actually, I don't need your services, but I've thought of someone who does. And as you, like we said earlier, trust the process through trusting people and being a trustworthy person, being a helpful guide, you can see those opportunities come to life.
I was just telling Brad's dad, Tom, we had worked with a company who had put out a devotional for suicidal teenage girls to help them. They referred us to a personal development company. From there, that person referred us to a therapist, and that therapist referred us to a different therapist, and that therapist referred us to somebody else. And so I started thinking back, wow, there's 6, 7, 8 people that have come from this one relationship that at the time I was just trying to serve and trying to help get a course off the ground. Now, many of my clients have come from that one relationship, not directly, but indirectly through people referring one another and serving well. And so I can just attest myself to just the power of generating the right kind of leads, because if you get the right kind of leads, this isn't just, hey, download our PDF. If you get the right kind of leads, you then get the right referrals because you've generated the right leads in the first place. And you build those long relationships, they naturally want to refer you. And then so that's why this resource is helpful, because it actually teaches you the process to generate the right type of leads in the first place. I never knew 6 or 7 years ago that what would come of this was what's come of it today, where it's been 7, 8 referrals down the line. And so that's the power of having the right kind of leads, having a clear message, and understanding how powerful the referral piece is. And you said it so well, Benjamin. Some of them may just become friends you have dinner with. Some of them may never work with you directly. But if they trust you and they value what you have, they will refer other people.
Another way you can summarize that is the tools 100% that you put out there combined with a service mindset.
Yes.
You're always coming into it to say, how do I serve these people? How do I add value? I'm here to serve. I'm here to help other people tell their story. I'm here to help other people take those steps forward. I want to see college athletes and working mothers feel healthy in their own bodies. I want to help other people. The service that I offer, I'm compensated for that. Yes. The heart of what I'm doing is that desire to serve, that desire to see people move forward. And when you have that, again, another way of saying the same thing, you'd be surprised how many people are like, I really appreciated the way that they served me. I would love to help other people experience that. And that's a new lead. That's a new potential source of business because of that service perspective, that knock-on effect. sometimes we might have this impression that it's a bad thing to start with people that we know for referrals. It's a bad thing to
This is
only
so great.
rely
Yeah.
on our
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
and friends. We just think,
Right.
oh, that's quite a humbling experience. Of course, these people are going to support me because they're my family and that's what they have to do. They're obligated to. But why don't we flip that script on its head and say, no, you know what? These are the people that know you the most, that trust you. Of course, they're going to champion it. And then hopefully, when they share that message with others, it's communicated through that trust. Instead of being something that's just a participation prize, it becomes a mark of quality. It becomes the foundation on which you build all those other things. So when you talk about the 6, 7 referrals that have come through, that's come through on the basis of the relationship that you have and the quality that you offer and the communication over time. We were trying to get an in-person, tangible, physical workshop where we help people discover their identity, their purpose for free. That was a tool that we shared with people all around the world, but we wanted to get that online, and we've been meaning to do so for some time. At that time, everything had just shut down because it was COVID, March 2020. So we'd already had this idea, and then all of a sudden we had this big pressure to create this thing. And we reached out to Derek and we reached out to the Clearsound team to say, hey, how can you help us with this? It wasn't like things were immediately settled in terms of this is the product within 3 days. They created this whole thing because what we needed was more complicated than that. And because we were able to dialogue, stay in communication, we were able to co-create, co-craft something that we were both happy with over a period of time. The product, the service that we needed took time. There was a diligence and a care that came through in that relationship where we both benefited. Of course, we paid for those services, but what we valued most of all was that dynamic nature of that relationship. To the extent that if anyone else needs some kind of course structure, we can say, you know what, we had a great experience working with them on this, finding the right solution eventually, seeing what emerged, and coming up with that. Because at the heart of it was that relationship, that dialogue.
Right.
That was what was valuable.
If you get one value piece out of this entire episode, this is the value piece that I think is worth thousands of dollars that many people never act on, is when people were stuck. I was talking to that coach the other day, and I've told this to the financial planning clients and the real estate agents. I've said, hey, do this one thing. I've done it myself and I've seen the impact of it. When I am stuck and I'm not sure what my next move is for my business, I make a list of 25 people. You can make a list of 50 people. I say 25 just so it's manageable. And I get on the phone and I reach out. And it's not an odd message. It's, hey, Benjamin, I was thinking about you and your wife. Do you know anyone that could benefit from wanting to grow their business? And he'd think, wait a minute. Now, if you get too narrow, you might say, do you know anybody that needs SEO, search engine optimization? He might be like, I don't know anybody. But if I say, Benjamin, do you know anybody that needs to grow your business? He's going to say, wow, actually, yes. I have this friend who wants to grow their business. They have a t-shirt company or such and such. That process has kept Clearsound going for the past 10 years or so, is that relationship building and that time of reaching out to people we know, people we've served, and say, who can we help? And if we make it too narrow, they're like, I don't know anybody that needs search engine optimization or JavaScript development. But if we make it large enough where we say, here's how we help in general, we can then meet with the people they refer to us and see how we can best help. And so that is such a, people don't take the time to do that because it's uncomfortable. It's easier, Benjamin, to write a great blog post and send a 3,000 person email list and hope that they read your blog post and sign up. And that happens. You've heard about how it happens. But it's also just as powerful to get on the phone and have conversations that lead to long-term relationships.
And if anything, it can be more reliable in those circumstances because you're not shooting in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
These people know you. They trust you. They want to help. They know the value that you bring, and they'd be happy to pass that on. And if you've built up that track record, people will see the benefit of that over time.
Even if you're listening to and you're like, I haven't had that many clients, I've only served a few, that's perfectly fine. You can use those few, even if those 3 people each know one person, can you call those 3 people they give you and maybe work with one of them? And we've seen how just working with one person has led to huge value in recognizing the value of long-term relationship and generating referrals. So I'm sure that Tom, Brad, and I will dig deeper into this referral piece. Benjamin just loves to bring meat and substance to everything that he does. He lives with such purpose and intention. And I just recognize there's such value in generating the right kind of referrals. So please grab that resource on the 5 ways to attract the right kind of leads. And make sure you watch that video. After you grab that resource right at the bottom, you're going to have a video from Brad that's going to explain the value of getting referrals. And if you can, jump on that call with Tom. Tom is the expert in referrals. This is what he lives. This is what he breathes. And we're going to do that to help you. Genuinely going to spend 15, 20 minutes with you to see how can we best help you generate referrals.